A month into my pregnancy, Marcus sent me a text message. She's divorced. Holding the lab results, it took me a long time to reply, and? So, let's get divorced. I had liked Marcus ever since college. Back then, though, he had a girlfriend he deeply loved, Sarah. Sarah came from a wealthy family with excellent financial standing, whereas Marcus's family was far less fortunate. His father had died unexpectedly, and his mother raised him alone. Like many couples, they broke up due to significant differences in their backgrounds and one set of parents disapproving. My carefully hidden feelings, which I thought I'd kept so well, were completely exposed the day Sarah announced her marriage. Grace, do you like me? I stared in surprise at the weary Marcus in front of me, my heart pounding in my throat. I don't. Before I could finish the sentence, Marcus's words choked me. Will you marry me? I had never imagined I would marry Marcus one day. Perhaps out of resignation, or maybe just settling, I was probably his reluctant second choice. But I didn't understand that then. I felt as though fate had smiled upon me and joyfully agreed. We got our marriage certificate the next day and held a wedding within a month. Sarah and Marcus, one after another, each started their own families. I hadn't told Marcus about the pregnancy. I didn't want to use a child to tie him down or to prove anything. I booked the earliest possible appointment. I was going to terminate the pregnancy and bid farewell to my foolish past. Today, Marcus came home unusually early, and even, for the first time ever, cooked for me. He had always known how to cook, actually. Sarah loved all kinds of gourmet food, and Marcus, doting on her, learned to cook whatever she desired. He just never cooked for me. I didn't push it, always thinking things would change with time. Later, I realized that love has nothing to do with time. You're back. Marcus's voice was as calm as usual. Sit down, let's eat first. I looked at the dishes on the table, and whether it was due to the pregnancy or something else, I had no appetite. I'm a bit tired, I want to sleep. I made an excuse to leave, but Marcus called out to me, eat first, and by the way, Marcus, I interrupted him. I knew our marriage was nothing more than a decision he made out of spite. After more than 3 years of marriage, if I couldn't keep him, I wouldn't force it. You set the date for the divorce. I won't cling to you, but I genuinely want to rest now and can't eat. A flicker of surprise crossed Marcus's face, then quickly vanished. All right, you rest. I pursed my lips, turned, and went back to the bedroom, locking the door. Once, when he was drunk, Marcus mentioned that Sarah had a spoiled nature and wouldn't eat when she was angry. He always worried she was suffering and feared she wasn't happy. She was all he thought about, while I foolishly waited for Marcus to change his mind. My chest felt heavy with emotion, a painful pressure. My stomach churned, and I suddenly felt the urge to retch. A knock sounded on the bedroom door. Grace, are you feeling unwell? I covered my mouth, desperately trying to swallow down the rising nausea in my throat. Open the door. Let's talk properly. Marcus's persistent knocking irritated me. When I didn't reply, the knocking outside stopped. Marcus's subdued voice came through the door. I saw Sarah today. At the sound of that name, my hand instinctively clenched. Marcus said, she's not doing well. Her family business went bankrupt, and they're in a lot of debt. Her husband had another woman and physically abused her. Marcus paused. I can't let her face this alone. The bitterness finally overwhelmed me. I quickly pulled open the door. Marcus moved to approach me, but I instinctively pushed him away and rushed to the bathroom. The nausea erupted instantly, along with the emotional knots that had been clogging my heart. Are you having stomach pains again? I'll take you to the hospital. Don't touch me. His hand landed on my shoulder, and I sharply pushed him away. Perhaps not expecting such a strong reaction, Marcus stood frozen. 3 years of accumulated hurt burst forth in that moment. I covered my face, weeping. I don't need you to care about me. Grace, Marcus said hoarsely, I'll give you the house, the car, and all the company shares. I don't want anything. But, I truly. Marcus spoke with difficulty, marrying you was an impulsive decision on my part. Isn't this outcome good for both of us? Good? How is this good? I wiped away my tears, my eyes red as I challenged him. In these 3 years, have you ever cared about me? Have you fulfilled your responsibilities as a husband? Even when we were intimate, you almost called out Sarah's name. I laughed, but I deserved it. Why did I have to fall for you, knowing you had someone else in your heart, and impulsively marry you? Once the date is set, text me. I'll be there on time. I walked into the living room, picked up my bag, and headed out. I hope you keep your word and don't take anything. The door slammed shut behind me. A summer breeze blew, chilling my face. I opened my phone, hesitating before dialing my mother's phone call. Back then, Marcus had nothing, and I insisted on marrying him, which made my mother so angry she didn't eat for days. Later, Marcus worked hard, earned his first fortune, and used that money to start his own business, and our lives improved. Even so, my mother still didn't think highly of him. I told you long ago that Marcus is deeply devoted, but his devotion isn't for you. He and Sarah have had years of history. Do you think he can just let it go? Working so late every day, making money, do you really think it's to give you a good life? It's just to make up for his regrets from his youth. If he'd had his current standing back then, he would have married Sarah long ago. Where would you have fit in? What's wrong? Why? Oh, you regretting it now? I held my phone, listening to my mother rambling on the other end. She was right. Marcus was devoted, and for all these years, he had only ever loved Sarah. His hard work and current achievements were also a result of that past missed opportunity. Now was divorced, her family was in debt, and her circumstances were even worse than Marcus's. Naturally, he would return to his idealized first love. As for me, no, perhaps there was no me at all. I wasn't that important to Marcus. My mother's voice spoke again. If you regret it, then regret it. I was just worried you'd be too stubborn to see clearly. My daughter is so young and beautiful, this is a good thing. A pang of sadness hit me, and fighting back the hurt, I said in a choked voice, Mom, I want to come home. My mother, usually so blunt, was surprisingly sensitive to my emotions. Come home if you want to. We'll cry at home. After I went back to my mom's place, Marcus did call me a few times. As soon as my mom saw the caller ID, she snatched the phone and answered, You're divorcing and getting together with someone else, so why bother pretending? Don't stand in the way of my daughter's happiness. After that, Marcus truly stopped calling me. He had no strong feelings for me, letting me go was always easy for him. Then one day, I saw him and Sarah holding hands below the Horizon building, looking completely happy, and I understood. He was busy taking care of Sarah. What is lost and then found again is most precious. So, he chose to remove me from his life. That was fine. I had finally seen things clearly. All that wasted time. Marcus saw me too. His smile froze on his face, replaced by a momentary look of bewilderment. To my surprise, he instinctively let go of Sarah's hand. I thought, perhaps because we hadn't finalized our divorce, he was worried I might have some ill will towards Sarah. After all, Marcus was still legally a married man. Sensing a change in him, Sarah's gaze turned to me. The moment she saw me, she looked a bit surprised, then, as if to declare her claim, she wrapped her arm around Marcus's. Marcus didn't pull away, letting her lean against him. I stood there numbly, unsure how to react. Ms. Grace, I'm so sorry, Ms. Vivian just finished her meeting. You've been waiting for ages. I snapped back to reality and shifted my gaze to the assistant. No worries, I just arrived. As she led me towards the building, she explained, Ms. Vivian said she'd admired your work for a long time. She wanted to recruit you back then, but you said your husband was in this city and it wasn't convenient for you to leave. It's fate, really. Our group's branch is also in this city, and Ms. Vivian just returned from abroad, so she wanted to chat with you again. Vivian, the CEO of Horizon, had seen my paintings before. That was soon after Marcus and I got married. She wanted me to go abroad for training, intending to mentor me properly. I refused. After got married, Marcus was distraught, dulling his senses with work every day. He constantly attended social events, raised capital, and drank himself silly. I worried about his health and feared that Marcus wouldn't take good care of himself if I left. So a week ago, when I saw the email from Horizon, I felt an almost surreal sense of unreality. Vivian's office was very spacious. She hadn't changed much in 3 years, bright, confident, courteous, yet not distant. She handed me a thick portfolio, which contained an exhibition catalog of her shows over the past few years. I don't know if you've lived the life you wanted these past few years of marriage, but looking at you, I'd guess not. I felt a bit awkward and didn't even dare to look up at her. Yes, after marrying Marcus, my entire focus had been on him. To allow him to concentrate on his startup, I took care of all the trivial matters myself. I always thought only of him, never of myself. I caressed the paintings in the portfolio, and a long ripple of emotion stirred within me. I'm getting divorced, I said, closing the portfolio and looking at Vivian. She didn't seem surprised. Congratulations, Vivian took back the portfolio and then pulled out an official letter. I'm hosting an exhibition here in a few days. Let's see if you're still worth mentoring. My heart pounded with excitement. I don't know how I got Vivian's contact information or how I walked out of that building. I only remember that the day was so bright, sweeping away all my gloom. For the next few days, I immersed myself in painting in my room. But I hadn't picked up a brush in too long. I stared at the canvas all morning, and it remained completely blank. My phone rang. It was a phone call from Marcus. "Grace, are you free tomorrow?" Staring at the blank canvas, I replied, "Yes." "Marcus, then tomorrow we'll go to City Hall, okay?" Perhaps because I was too quick to agree, Marcus on the other end paused for a few seconds. Seeing his silence, I asked, "Is there anything else?" No. He paused, then seemed to have more to say. If there's nothing else, I'll hang up now." Without waiting for him to finish, I hung up the phone. I rubbed the canvas, then picked up my brush. The next day was bright and sunny, and I arrived at City Hall early. Marcus wasn't alone, someone else was with him. Sarah. Sarah was clinging to his arm, full of affection. When she saw me, she greeted me enthusiastically. "Long time no see, Grace. Thank you for taking such good care of Marcus. You won't have to bother anymore." Marcus's hand hung by his side. Perhaps out of guilt or something else, he didn't dare to look me directly in the eye. After all, my sincerity and devotion to him over the years were undeniable. I pointed at Sarah with a blank expression and asked, "When we go in to process the divorce, is she coming with us too?" It was just a formality, the divorce was a foregone conclusion. We would all live separate lives from now on. Marcus thought for a moment, then told Sarah, "Sarah, wait for me outside. I'll be out soon." At first, Sarah was a bit reluctant, but Marcus whispered something in her ear, and she quickly brightened. "Then I'll wait for you for a bit. After all, we'll have a lot of time together in the future," Sarah said, glancing at me with triumph in her eyes. "Let's go," Marcus said to me after placating Sarah. City Hall was crowded with people. Half were registering for divorce, and half for marriage. Interestingly, the couples registering for marriage were sweet and whispered loving vows, anticipating a future solely for each other. Meanwhile, the couples registering for divorce were already sick of the sight of each other, arguing loudly or appearing numb and cold, wishing only to be strangers hereafter. Thinking back, when I got married, it seemed only I was full of hope for the future. What was Marcus like then? I opened our marriage certificate and handed it over. Oh, Marcus had no expression, while I next to him was smiling like an idiot. 3 years and 3 months. Marcus and I ended our failed marriage. Marcus was finally released from my heart. He was no longer my obsession, my special preference. He was a fleeting note, drifted out of my world. "Grace, take care," Marcus looked at me, his expression complex. Outside, Sarah, unable to wait any longer, ran in. She embraced Marcus, pouting, "Didn't you tell me to wait a bit? Why did it take so long?" Marcus ruffled Sarah's hair and gently coaxed her, "I won't make you wait anymore." I tightened my grip on my bag strap, then slowly loosened it. Sarah smiled sweetly, blinking at me. "Grace, do you want to have a farewell meal?" "No, thank you." I looked earnestly at Marcus. "Congratulations on getting what you wished for." A few days later, I sent my artwork to Vivian. When no news came back, I grew nervous, afraid she wasn't satisfied. During these days of waiting, the day for my surgery finally arrived. I hadn't told any about the surgery, not even my mother. I was afraid she would worry. The hospital bed was cold, the anesthetic was cold, and the scalpel was cold. I couldn't help but cry. That little life, which hadn't yet had the chance to see the world, was simply stripped away from my body. That day, after the abortion, I overheard the nurses on duty chatting. Men these days are so irresponsible. For a moment of pleasure, they almost ruin a girl's entire life. If you ask me, girls need to keep their eyes open and take care of themselves. Suffering this much for some jerk isn't worth it. My hand rested on my lower abdomen. Marcus's child was no longer there. 3 days later, I was discharged from the hospital. I hadn't brought much with me and planned to take a taxi home. Before I even walked out of the hospital entrance, I saw Marcus rushing in, carrying a woman. The woman appeared injured and was covered in blood. My heart skipped a beat. Sarah? How could she be so badly hurt? I pushed through the pain and followed them. The medical staff placed Sarah on a gurney and rushed her to the operating room, racing against time. Marcus looked somewhat dazed. His clothes were covered in Sarah's blood. I stood a short distance away, not approaching. For some unknown reason, Marcus suddenly looked up in my direction. His previously unfocused eyes suddenly lit up. "Grace?" He seemed surprised. "Why are you at the hospital? You look so pale." I didn't want him to know I'd terminated the pregnancy, so I changed the subject and asked, "How did Sarah get so badly injured?" Marcus's expression gradually dimmed, filled with self-reproach. Her ex-husband found out we were getting married and came to confront her. I probed, so, her ex-husband attacked her? Yes, Marcus mumbled, he came with a knife. I gasped sharply. Did you call the police? That's attempted murder. My voice was a bit agitated, and my lower abdomen suddenly throbbed with pain. I leaned against the hospital walls. Handrail, using it for support, and slowly recovered. Seeing me covered in a cold sweat, Marcus instinctively reached out to help me. Are you sick? I pushed his hand away, maintaining my distance. My distance made Marcus's hand freeze, and he silently lowered it. The police have been called, he continued. It's a good thing I was nearby when Sarah called me, otherwise. Marcus didn't finish, looking worriedly at the illuminated light above the operating room. I paused, then offered comfort, she'll be all right. He looked at me in surprise. He probably hadn't expected me to comfort him. Her ex-husband is a danger. If he's not afraid to kill, this won't be the last time. While I didn't like Sarah, I despised men who hit women even more. Domestic violence is unforgivable. Seeing that there was nothing for me to do here, I was about to leave when Marcus suddenly called out to me. Grace. I stopped. Sarah and I are getting married. I stared at him for a long moment. So? You're not going to invite me to your wedding, are you? For a second marriage, no less. Perhaps my bluntness surprised Marcus, who paused for 2 seconds. I feel like. He seemed unsure how to start. I feel like. I'm not as excited as I thought I'd be. Not long after the second year of college began, the student union organized an outdoor activity. I went that day too. During the Truth or Dare segment, someone joked to Marcus, "What's the one thing you look forward to most in your life?" Marcus suddenly blushed, a smile playing on his lips. He looked down, his wisps of hair covering his eyes. Marcus's voice was soft, but firm, marrying. A chorus of cheers and teasing erupted around us. To prevent anyone from noticing my reaction, I forced a smile and joined the crowd. That day, the orange juice was the worst I had ever tasted in my life. Later, Marcus didn't get to marry Sarah as he wished. Sarah's parents felt Marcus wasn't good enough for their family and looked down on him for being from a single-parent household. That time they argued frequently. Marcus, what's wrong with me having my dad arrange a job for you? Look at your income, you can't even afford one of my bags. Marcus, just work a little harder, and once my parents accept you, we'll get married. During that time, Marcus was under a lot of mental stress, often suffering from insomnia and needing medication to sleep. I would deliberately wait for him at the subway station, pretending to run into him, and then take the same train home. Until one day, after the person beside him exited the subway, he patted the empty seat next to him and said, "Sit down. You've been standing with me for days now." I awkwardly sat beside him, not daring to speak. He seemed to have found an outlet, or perhaps he knew I was listening. "Is there any way to make more money? I want to marry Sarah." He looked down dejectedly, muttering, "But I've really tried my hardest." Marcus rested his head in his hands. I couldn't see his expression, but I wanted to reach out and comfort him. The subway arrived at the station. He stood up. "Thank you for accompanying me every day, but don't do this anymore. Riding the subway back and forth is tiring." The memory abruptly ended. I looked into Marcus's eyes, parted my lips, and uttered a single word. "Oh." 2 days later, Vivian finally replied to my message. She said nothing, only sent me a number. I was confused, and just as I thought to ask for details, another message came through. "Your artwork's reference number." Then she sent me an address, exhibition address. "Come if you're interested." I was so excited I nearly dropped my phone. I once thought marrying Marcus was the happiest thing in the world. Now, I realized the happiest thing in the world was my own self-worth. I quickly replied, "Okay." Just as I put down my phone, the doorbell rang. After my divorce from Marcus, apart from some company shares, he truly left everything else to me. The house was in an excellent location, and I didn't want to sell it for a low price, so I had been living there. I opened the door to find Marcus standing there, full of anger. I was a bit baffled. After the divorce, we had lived separate lives, not even contacting each other by phone. As for Sarah, I hadn't disturbed her either. What was he so upset about? "What do you want?" I asked him irritably. He didn't seem to notice my displeasure and walked into the house on his own. Only then did I notice he was holding something. He slammed a report on the table and demanded, "You're pregnant?" My heart skipped a beat. How did he find this report? After returning to my mom's place that day, I had placed the report on my bedside table. Later, I had been so busy with my artwork that I forgot about the pregnancy test results. I tried to retrieve the report, but Marcus quickly snatched it away. I grabbed at empty air, then angrily retorted, "How did you get your hands on this? You answer my question first." Marcus stared at me, as if he wouldn't give up until he got an answer. I really didn't want to admit I had been pregnant with Marcus's child, nor did I want him to know this child had ever existed. So, we stood in a stalemate, neither willing to give in. He suddenly let out a cold laugh, casually flipping through the pages. Judging by the dates, it was that day. My face instantly flushed red, and I glared at him in exasperated anger. Marcus had been drinking that day, but he wasn't completely drunk. I helped him back to the bedroom, but he suddenly grabbed my hand and wouldn't let go. I was both shocked and delighted until I heard him call out, "Sarah." It was like a splash of cold water over my head. I froze, forgetting to pull my hand back for a long time. Sarah texted me, saying she wasn't happy, and Marcus mumbled, then embraced me, full of pain. My voice felt somewhat ethereal, and I stared blankly as I asked him, "Are you unhappy too?" I don't know what to do. Marcus suddenly led me onto the bed. Losing my balance, I fell beside him. Marcus seemed to go wild, taking and taking. Perhaps out of resentment, Marcus was very rough. I cried out, hearing only his voice in my ears. I closed my eyes, desperately trying to forget the scene from that night. Marcus continued to press, wasn't it? That day, right? So you went to the hospital that day because of the baby? Yes, almost throwing caution to the wind, I revealed everything. But you don't need to worry, I know. Having gotten the answer he wanted, Marcus turned and left without letting me finish my sentence. He took the report with him. I sank onto the sofa, holding my head, and my phone rang again. This time, it was my mom. Her agitated voice came through, "What's wrong with you? Why didn't you tell me you were pregnant? Were you planning to raise the baby alone?" "Fine, don't tell me, but how come the father doesn't even know? If I hadn't found the pregnancy test results, would you have kept it from me forever? Speak up. You're going to drive me crazy." I exhaled, trying to calm myself, and said candidly, "I terminated the pregnancy." You terminated the pregnancy." My mom choked on her words. During that time, I had lied to her, saying I was going on a business trip, when in fact I was having surgery. After a long silence, my mom seemed to have recovered. Her voice was much calmer now. "Does know?" I sighed helplessly. I was just about to tell him, but he left. Silence fell again on the other end. After I don't know how long, my mom's voice came through. "Come back to my place, honey. I'll make you some soup to help you recover." On the day of the exhibition, my mom repeatedly reminded me not to stand too long or get too tired. I agreed repeatedly and rushed to the exhibition. When I arrived, Vivian was talking with someone. She gave me a slight nod, and I smiled in return, then started looking at the artwork. My painting's reference number was 197. A Faye. People were gathered around discussing it. "This painting is interesting. A bride in a black wedding dress, symbolizing eternal love. So romantic." "What? A black wedding dress is so unlucky. Some brides wear black wedding dresses to signify accepting the struggles and sorrows of marriage. Women suffer enough, why accept more hardship when getting married? Might as well go down together." "Come closer, look. Doesn't the black paint have some red in it, like the bride's blood? Is it saying marriage is the tomb of love? And the bride's expression, how can it look like both crying and laughing? Is the artist's marriage unhappy?" I created that painting exactly when Marcus called me to set the date for our divorce. My mindset at the time was indeed not bright. I resented Marcus for his betrayal and regretted my own impulsiveness. It felt as if all the tears I'd shed had returned to my mind. The discussion of the few people attracted other visitors, and gradually, the conversation shifted from a single painting to whether one should even get married. I quietly left. It was almost time, so I prepared to find Vivian to say goodbye. My eyes scanned the room and caught sight of a familiar figure. That person saw me too. "Grace!" Sarah shouted, immediately drawing attention. And my artwork was titled with my name. Sarah marched towards me aggressively. Her neck was bandaged, and her eyes were still a bit bruised, injuries likely from earlier days. "What did you say to Marcus?" She glared at me, as if she wanted to tear me apart. I felt baffled. "Marcus and I have absolutely nothing to do with each other now. Don't pretend." Sarah raised her voice, and the visitors who had been looking at paintings all turned their gaze towards us. "How could Marcus give you all the property, keeping only a portion of the company shares for himself? You must have manipulated him." The commotion here also attracted Vivian, who, after calming the visitors, strode over to me. "This An art exhibition, not a mental institution. Please don't shout. Sarah wasn't listening at all. I didn't know what kind of conflict they'd had, but Sarah looked completely distraught. Marcus said if he marries me, he won't have any money for now, as he left everything to you, and he wants me to wait. Why? Why should Marcus's finances all go to you, and I have to wait? You've only been married a few years. How could he lose his mind? To spare Vivian further embarrassment, I tried my best to stay calm and said, "This is our community property, and he voluntarily gave it to me. It's clearly outlined in a legally binding document. If you have any issues, talk to him yourself, and don't involve me in matters between the two of you." But was unrelenting, insisting that she wanted Marcus's share of the property back. The exhibition was disturbed, and Vivian was forced to call security, but still had injuries, so they couldn't be too rough with her. Helpless, I dialed Marcus's phone call. He answered quickly, almost instantly. "Grace?" I briefly explained Sarah's situation. "Come quickly and take her away, or I'll call the police." "Don't worry, I'll be right there." Marcus quickly hung up, and Vivian rubbed her temples, a headache forming. When said he'd be right there, he truly meant it. As soon as he walked in, Sarah quieted down. She ran to Marcus, pulling on his arm, and said, Tell Grace right now, wasn't she the one who schemed against you and tricked you out of your property?" Marcus looked at me apologetically. "Let's go back first, and we can talk slowly there." Marcus's words completely upset Sarah. She pulled her arm away, saying in a sharp voice, "Why are you protecting her? You've never been like this before. Do you regret divorcing me to be with her?" Sarah, as she spoke, her eyes gradually reddened, and she sounded increasingly wronged. Marcus looked at her, clearly distressed, unsure how to comfort her. Vivian gave me a knowing look. I understood. The three of us staying there wouldn't solve anything, unless I left. I said, "You two continue your argument. I'm leaving." Sure enough, I hadn't taken 2 steps before Sarah chased after me. "Who said you could leave?" She threw her bag at my back, and I nearly tumbled down the stairs. "Sarah!" Marcus's voice rose. His emotions were always stable, he rarely ever got angry with anyone. Startled by Marcus's raised voice, Sarah froze. "You've never spoken to me like that." "Never," she cried and ran out. I kicked the bag lying at my feet. If she hadn't run so fast, I would have truly thrown it at her face. Marcus bent down to pick up Sarah's bag and said apologetically, "I'm sorry, I didn't know she would come." Then his eyes shifted to my lower abdomen. From now on, you and Sarah, both of you, stop bothering me. Otherwise, next time I'll call the police." I glared fiercely at him. Marcus yelling at Sarah, wasn't it because he was worried about the child in my belly? I suddenly felt a surge of secret satisfaction. If knew there was no child of his in my belly, then all his actions would be nothing but a joke. That same day, the video of Sarah causing a scene at the exhibition went viral online. Netizens speculated wildly about this melodramatic story. Isn't that Grace the artist of the black painting? I thought the painting was strange, turns out her marriage was a mess. The artist's ex-husband looks pretty handsome and he was decent, he almost left with nothing. Don't just look at his face, upstairs person. If he wasn't guilty of cheating with a mistress, why would a man be willing to divide so much property? 3 floors up, don't talk nonsense. These 3 are all my college classmates. When was single, Marcus and Sarah were already a sweet couple. Who knew they would end up marrying each other? Huh? So the artist was the mistress? Screw you. Can the alum upstairs get the whole story straight? Sarah's family looked down on Marcus, and Sarah and Marcus's marriage timelines were completely separate. Grace is innocent. So, now both sides are divorced, and they're getting back together? The online discussions were varied and endless. I turned off my phone, hesitating before making a phone call to Vivian. It rang 3 times before someone picked up. "Ms. Vivian, have I caused you trouble?" Vivian's voice came through. "It is a bit of trouble." Just as I expected. I was thinking of how to apologize properly when Vivian added, "You're quite lucky, actually. With all this buzz, your artwork's reputation has soared. For a budding artist like you, with talent but lacking channels for promotion, this is great. Controversial fame is still fame, after all. And with your rising popularity, your black painting is also getting a lot of attention. I think I'm going to make a fortune." Vivian's laughter came through from the other end. Soon, she sobered her tone and said, "I'll be going back in a few days. You're divorced now, and you have no children tying you down. What do you think? Would you consider coming with me for training abroad?" I thought about it seriously. Vivian hosted exhibitions, had connections and networks, her resources were definitely top tier. If I went with her, I would definitely learn a lot. There would be no downside for me. Except, I carefully considered and said, if I go, can I come back? A pause on the other end. What, still can't let go of a man? I chuckled. No, it's not that. My mom has been alone since my dad passed away. She's still here in the country, and I'm a bit worried about her. Vivian let out a soft laugh. Her voice suddenly turned serious. Grace, I think you've fallen into a misconception. Question mark. Vivian said, when you return, having achieved both fame and fortune, it won't be a question of whether you can come back, but whether you want to. At that point, the choice won't be in someone else's hands, but in your own. You can even ask others if they want to follow you. I finally told my mom about my decision to go abroad. As usual, she was carefree on the other end of the phone call. Go for it. It's such a great opportunity. Ms. Vivian is your mentor, learn all you can to repay her kindness. Don't worry about me, I'm perfectly capable, can eat and sleep well, and even play some mahjong now and then. It's always good for a young woman to broaden her horizons. That last sentence made my eyes sting with emotion. Before, I always revolved around Marcus. After we married, I devoted myself entirely to him and never thought about myself. I said, then take good care of yourself. Also, if you run into Marcus, just tell him about the abortion. It wouldn't matter anymore anyway. My mom agreed on the phone call. I hung up the phone and, holding my plane ticket, prepared to board. My 5 years abroad were very fulfilling. I learned many techniques and concepts, and Vivian even introduced me to many influential people. I gradually integrated into her circle, learning how she communicated and socialized. Just as my mom said, I worked hard to improve myself, acquiring knowledge and skills, all while figuring out how to repay Vivian. She was my mentor, and later, she became my friend. A friend with whom I could share everything. I started holding solo art exhibitions, and news about me would occasionally pop up online. My mom would always be the first to forward my news to me, followed by 2 smiling emojis. As for Marcus, I don't know if he ever looked for me, but it had truly been a long, long time since I'd thought of him. My mom never mentioned him either. I occasionally scrolled through the alumni group and only knew he was involved in a lawsuit. Beyond that, I knew nothing. I was busy every day, painting, organizing exhibitions, giving interviews. Sometimes I was so busy I couldn't even answer my mom's phone calls. Until one day, I saw a familiar number. I answered, and a tired voice came from the other end. Grace, yo. Your mother has been hospitalized. I bought the next available flight and rushed to the airport overnight. Midway, I kept calling my mom, but no one answered. Finally, I had no choice but to dial Marcus's phone call. He picked up immediately, as usual. How was my mom's surgery? Did it go smoothly? Marcus's voice still carried a hint of tiredness. Don't worry, it went very well. Be careful on the road, don't rush. I've got it covered here. A couple of days before, my mom went hiking and somehow fell down the mountain. I was in the middle of an interview at the time and missed her phone call. That's why my mom called Marcus. I frantically rushed to the hospital. My mom was already asleep after the surgery. Marcus saw me and stepped out of the ward. He seemed to have lost a lot of weight and looked quite worn out. He, who was usually so neat, even had stubble. Are you tired? Do you want to rest a bit? He kept staring at me, his gaze not leaving me. I said uncomfortably, thank you, I really appreciate your help. He gave a wry smile. You're suddenly so formal with me. I was speechless. It had been too long since we'd last seen each other, and I didn't know what to say. We sat on the bench in the hospital room, neither of us speaking. He must have sensed the awkward atmosphere, so he broke the silence by asking, how are things abroad? Are you settling in? I said, it's going well. Another silence fell. Marcus asked, are you still leaving? His breathing was barely audible as he anxiously awaited my answer. Oh, by the way, I saw in the alumni group earlier that you were involved in a lawsuit. What happened? Is your company in trouble? I deliberately changed the subject. He smiled, not at all offended by my cutting remark. He always had a calm demeanor. The company is doing great. I was representing Sarah in a lawsuit. As if worried I might misunderstand, he quickly added, her ex-husband assaulted someone with a knife. That matter had been unresolved, and I remembered what you said, it's a hidden danger, once is a pattern. So I sued her ex-husband. We'd been going through the lawsuit for a while, but fortunately, the outcome was good, he was sentenced. I smiled. That's very kind of you. To be honest, I didn't feel much emotion anymore when it came to Marcus and Sarah, but seemed to have misunderstood. Sarah left, with her parents. I was surprised but quickly composed myself. Even though her ex-husband was sentenced, he'll eventually get out. While he's incarcerated, I had Sarah's parents take her away. I felt a pang of regret. That's a shame. He looked puzzled. A shame about what? I said, it's a shame you and Sarah were destined to meet but not to marry. You divorced me, and in the end, you two still didn't marry. Marcus stared at me intently, as if he had something to say but stopped short. I probably guessed what it was. Thank you for all your trouble these past few days. You should go home. I'll take care of my mom now. The light in his eyes suddenly dimmed, and with a hint of bitterness, he said, then I'll come back tomorrow. My mom was recovering well. After she woke up, despite her complexion not being great, her spirits were high. I asked the doctor about her general condition, and he said there would be some lasting consequences, and she would still need someone to care for her properly. My mom quickly said, don't listen to the doctor's nonsense. I'm already fine. Don't you dare listen to the doctor and stay. I laughed. I didn't plan on leaving this time anyway. Do you know how scared me half to death when you said you were hospitalized? I wanted to fly here immediately. I had everything I wanted, but I only had one mom. Just as I was speaking, Marcus brought breakfast in from outside. He looked pleased and seemed to be in a good mood. The old woman in the next bed looked at us enviously. Your son-in-law is really good. Handsome and with a good personality, he comes to the hospital every day. I opened the oatmeal and handed it to my mom, explaining, we've been divorced for years. He's my ex-husband. The old woman choked, her expression a little awkward. An ex-husband is still so attentive. Marcus pressed his lips together and remained silent. After having breakfast with my mom, I walked Marcus out. Before he left, I told him, now that I'm back, you don't need to come anymore. It would be inappropriate for people to misunderstand. Misunderstand what? What's inappropriate? He stared directly at me, with resentment brewing inside him. I ignored him. Just don't come anymore. Why? He stubbornly refused to leave, demanding an explanation. Marcus had his emotional issues, and he was quite stubborn by nature, otherwise, he wouldn't have been unable to let go of Sarah for so long. I said impatiently, why? We're divorced. Don't you think what you're doing is going too far? He was silenced by my words, unable to retort, and muttered softly, I don't think so. Suit yourself. Ignoring him, I turned to go back to the ward, when Marcus suddenly called out to me. The child. What child? There's no child. I became agitated. Didn't my mom tell you? I had the abortion the moment you saw those pregnancy test results. It was done the very day you took Sarah to the hospital. Marcus's expression darkened, looking somewhat dejected and self-reproachful. I knew you had it, but I didn't know it was that early. Now you know. Can you please stop bothering me? I flung the words at him and quickly left, leaving Marcus standing alone. For the next few days, Marcus still came to the hospital. Even on the day my mom was discharged, he came to help. Since my outburst that day, Marcus had never mentioned the child again, and even spoke to me with caution. He drove me to the house. My mom's leg wasn't fully functional and she needed care. The house was close to the hospital, so if anything happened, we could get my mom there immediately. Vivian called me. I explained the situation, telling her I planned to settle things abroad once my mom could walk on her own, and then I wouldn't go abroad again. Vivian thought it was a pity, but she still respected my decision. You can't be too greedy, you can't have everything. These past few days, Marcus showed up without fail, and my mom started speaking up for him. Marcus, you know, I used to find him a bit annoying, but this time, if it weren't for him, I would have lost my life. I said calmly, that's one thing, and this is another. My mom continued, yes, that's one thing, and this is another. Didn't he have someone else in his heart before? Now that's over. His love is still deep, and he treats you well. Just as she was speaking, Marcus came in with some fruit. After changing the locks, he even made himself a spare key. My mom's leg could already walk, and I also planned to go back and take care of the remaining business. I wanted to take a taxi, but Marcus insisted on driving me to the airport. I sat silently in his car, watching the scenery rushing past outside. Do you want to get some sleep? I sighed and rubbed my temples. Marcus, you really don't have to do this. Isn't it better if we just live our own lives, like before? His face was tense, and he didn't speak. Whenever I brought up that topic, he chose to avoid the subject. I truly didn't understand. He was the one who wanted the divorce, yet when it actually happened, he wasn't happy. The rest of the drive was silent. He dropped me off at the airport and, as if nothing had happened, said, I'll pick you up when you return. During these days abroad, Marcus called every day without fail, under the guise of giving me updates on my mom's condition, but he was actually mixing in personal matters. Grace, when are you coming back? What do you want to eat? I'll cook it for you then. Grace, your flowers have bloomed. They'll be in full bloom by the time you're back. Grace, I bought you some flowers, remember? Are to change the water for them. Grace, when you get back, let's have a proper talk. I never realized Marcus was so talkative before, it was getting annoying. I deliberately prolonged my half-month trip to a full month before returning. Vivian still didn't want me to go back, as if afraid I'd repeat my past mistakes. Before I left, she repeatedly warned me, whatever you do, don't get married a second time. I'm a cautionary tale. A man's nature never changes. Don't you dare believe Marcus's sweet talk. I reassured her repeatedly, and only when it was almost boarding time did Vivian finally let me go. That day, I avoided Marcus and took a taxi home by myself. It was time for a conclusion about Marcus and me. When I got home, Marcus had already prepared dinner. Seeing me return alone, my mom looked surprised. Where's Marcus? Didn't he go to pick you up? I avoided him. I put down my suitcase, and my mom already had her phone in hand. Then I'll give him a phone call and tell him not to wait. Marcus returned quickly, practically running up the stairs. By the time he came back, I was already sitting at the table, eating. My mom was tactful. She took a bowl of rice and slipped back into her room. Grace, I know what you're going to say. I put down my chopsticks, cutting him off. But I don't love you anymore. He clenched his fists, unwilling to accept it. I don't care about Sarah anymore. During the 3 years I spent with you, something subtly changed. I didn't even realize it myself, or perhaps, driven by a stubborn obsession, I missed out on the person right beside me. The first time I got Sarah's phone call, that night Marcus paused for a moment. I wasn't unhappy, I just didn't know how to face it. In that moment, I realized I had wavered. Between and you, I wavered. It was as if the obsession of those past few years wasn't so strong anymore. I felt like I really was a jerk. On second thought, Marcus was indeed a decent man. It was just that Sarah stood between us then, and he couldn't wholeheartedly love me. If his parents hadn't opposed them back then, perhaps they would have been very happy too. However, Marcus, I've seen you deeply in love with Sarah, and I've seen you not in love with me. So I can't fully let go and enter a second marriage with you. The first time I married you, I had exhausted all my courage. The sound of cicadas came from outside. Another summer, the vines were lush. That first summer, I had already exhausted all my courage. Marcus probably understood. He forced a smile and consoled me, it's okay. Then I'll take my time. Just like I did at the beginning. Winning each other's hearts, little by little. Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and share it with your friends. We look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments section, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more exciting stories. See you next time.